As much as I love meal prepping and having a bunch of healthy meal options ready to go in my fridge, sometimes the process can be a little bit overwhelming and it does require time. Now that the weather is warming up and it's absolutely beautiful outside, if I'm being completely honest, one of the last things that I want to do is spend hours inside in my kitchen meal prepping. So I was thinking, what could I make that would require as little amount of time as possible, but would still give me a bunch of healthy meals that I could have in my fridge for the week and would still help me glow up in time for summer. Mason jar meal prep. Today's meals are designed to be quick and easy. They require zero cooking and zero reheating when you're ready to eat them. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of my Glow Up by Summer meal prep series. All of my meals are high protein focused and are delicious. As always, I have my menu with the grocery list, all of the recipes, everything that you need to know, including macros. I've typed it all up and I will link it in the description box below so that it's easy for you to make any of these recipes if you want to try them out. On the menu today, I am going to be making a breakfast or a snack option if you prefer, and that's going to be 2 orange creamsicle overnight oats. These are so delicious. It tastes like you're having a dessert, but there's zero guilt. Super healthy and lots of protein, just what I love for breakfast. And then the rest of the meals are more of a lunch focus, but of course you could always eat this for dinner as well. I'm gonna be making 2 jars of a Thai peanut shrimp noodle jar, and I'm gonna be using Miracle noodles, so it's not like a spaghetti noodle or a pasta noodle, it's a lower carb noodle that requires no cooking, which is really convenient. And then I'm gonna make a chicken poppy seed salad jar and also a beet and balsamic salmon jar. All of these jars are healthy, high protein, really easy to throw together and make. And also I have included how to layer the jars properly so that your food doesn't get soggy and it can last a few days in your fridge. Oh, and I almost forgot. If you missed any of my other summer glow up meal preps, make sure you go back and catch up on those ones after you've watched today's video, and I will link them at the end of today's video for you. All right, let's meal prep. With today's meal prep, you can totally start with any recipe that you want, but I decided to start with the Thai peanut shrimp noodle jar simply because we have some frozen ingredients that need to come to room temperature first. So I have some pre-cooked frozen shrimp and I've just given them a rinse and put them on a plate with paper towel. And I'm just gonna let those sit and thaw while I'm working on the rest of the ingredients. And I also have frozen edamame, and it is recommended that you blanch the edamame before using them. So all I did was rinse them, brought them up to room temperature, and then I just put some water in a kettle and boiled it and let them sit in the hot water while I prepare the sauce. So this sauce uses a powdered peanut butter. I don't know if you've ever used these before. I often put them in my smoothies to give them a peanut butter flavor without all of the extra calories, but it's also a good substitute for the sauce if you are looking for a lower calorie, less fat sauce. However, it does lack a little bit of the delicious flavor that a regular peanut butter has. So if you'd rather not sacrifice on the flavor and have a little bit more of the calories and the fat, then you can definitely add real peanut butter as well. And I've included the ratios if you'd rather go with the real peanut butter in that free document attached. I actually decided to double this recipe because it's just as easy to make 2 jars instead of 1, and partly because I wanted to be a good wife and make sure my husband had a healthy lunch to take to work as well. And let's be honest, I did not want to store half a pack of the Miracle noodles in the fridge since the recipe only calls for half a pack per jar. So you might as well just double this recipe and go for 2 jars instead of just having 1. So with these Miracle noodles, actually my brand is not called Miracle Noodles, but I mean that is one of the popular brands that you can find at the grocery store. All you have to do is give them a really good rinse and then let them drain, and you could even pat them dry if you like. And then in the meantime, you're gonna work on all of the fresh ingredients. Now let's talk about how to layer this noodle jar. You're always gonna start by adding your sauce at the bottom of the jar, and this is just gonna help to keep everything from going soggy and keep all of your fresh ingredients on top nice and crisp. After you've added the sauce, next you're gonna add in the noodles, making sure that they've been rinsed well and drained. I love these noodles because they're low calorie and they will take on the flavor of any sauce that you mix them with. And next we're gonna add in our protein, which is the pre-cooked shrimp. Shrimp is one of my favorite sources of protein simply because they're so easy to use and to cook. I love shrimp. If you don't love the flavor of shrimp, well, that's too bad. And I'm also adding in the edamame, which is gonna give us a little extra protein as well. And then I'm adding in these pre-chopped carrot matchsticks. These are so convenient. Just save yourself all the time that you can when meal prepping and buy as many pre-cut veggies and ingredients that you can find. I also added some red bell pepper and then some green onion, which adds a really nice flavor. Here I have a broccoli slaw coleslaw kind of mix. You can find all kinds of different chopped cabbage at your grocery store. Just pick whatever one looks the tastiest, looks the best, and looks the freshest. That's what I did. And then I'm adding some chopped peanuts on top. Once you're done assembling the jar, you're just going to seal it, put it in the fridge, and then when you're ready to eat it, give it a good shake. Next on the menu is the chicken and poppy seed salad jar. This jar has over 30 grams of protein and it's definitely a really filling and satisfying salad. Honestly, salads are one of my go-to lunches during the week. They're just so convenient. You never feel bad after eating a good salad, and if you make it the right way, you will be full for hours. So the dressing is actually high in protein too because it's made with non-fat Greek yogurt, which is gonna give it that same creamy texture but without adding any of the extra fat and giving us an extra protein boost. I'm also adding poppy seeds, and you can usually find poppy seeds in the bulk section of your grocery store, at least that's where I found mine. And you only need a little bit, but they add such a nice crunch and flavor. Next, I'm adding chickpeas to the jar and I'm just giving them a rinse first. I love chickpeas because they add a little bit of extra protein and fiber, which is going to help keep us full longer. For the protein, I am adding pre-cooked chicken breast strips, but you could also grab a pre-cooked rotisserie chicken if you like, or you could even use a turkey or a chicken lunch meat. And I'm also adding canned peaches since peaches aren't quite in season yet. And I always buy the canned peaches that are packed in juice instead of the ones that say no sugar added, because if you read the label, they almost certainly contain artificial sweeteners, which I try to avoid. But if you can find one that is made with stevia, that would be a good option as well. And the last ingredient I'm adding is sunflower seeds, but if you have pumpkin seeds or another nut or seed that you prefer, that would work great as well. Next, I'm making the beet and balsamic salmon jar, and I'm going to start by making my own dressing. Making your own dressing takes hardly any time at all, and it's so much healthier than buying store-bought dressings. Most of the store-bought dressings have tons of processed oils, added sugar, and just a bunch of random fillers that you don't need. This is really simple. All I'm doing is adding some olive oil, balsamic vinegar, Dijon mustard, and a little bit of maple syrup, and a splash of water just to thin it out a little bit. Give it a good shake, and that's it. I'm going to be using canned salmon for my protein. Canned salmon is great. The only problem that I have with canned salmon is you kind of have to pick through and remove any of the bones or the skin if you're not a fan of skin. I don't love a lot of the soggy salmon skin. I don't mind if it's a little bit crispy, but I prefer to pick off all of the kind of yucky things that don't feel the best in my mouth when I'm eating it. If you can handle the bones and the skin, it's so much healthier for you, so you do that, girl. You eat it your way. And a time-saving ingredient I'm using is pre-cooked beets. Obviously, beets take quite some time to cook if you want to cook them at home, so just buying them pre-cooked will save you lots of time and they taste really delicious. And I've also chopped up some fresh cucumbers. Okay, it's time to layer the jar. So always start with the dressing on the bottom. I'm adding the beets, and then I'm going to be adding the cucumbers as well. Next, I'm adding the canned salmon, and I'm basically using 1 full can of salmon in this jar. I'm also adding a chunk of light feta cheese. There's lots of fat already in the canned salmon, so I'm trying to cut back on some fat and calories by using a lower fat cheese, but I'm also sprinkling in some more of those sunflower seeds, but once again, you can also use pumpkin seeds or another nut or seed of your choice. I'm also adding some fresh greens, and then I love alfalfa sprouts, so I'm adding a good handful of those. And this is optional, but you can add any fresh herb that you like on the top. And then when you're ready to eat this, you can either dump it out onto a plate or just give the jar a really good shake and everything will mix together. I'm actually so excited about this recipe because it turned out so good and it's probably my favorite jar this week. It seriously tastes just like an orange creamsicle and it has over 20 grams of protein in 1 jar. This makes the perfect breakfast, but honestly, I am more of an eggs and toast kind of girl, so I like to use this as a pre or a post-workout snack. Right after a workout, I like to get some protein into my body right away, so this will deliver a good amount of protein and also a good quick digesting carb. What makes this so good, I think, is the little container of the mandarin orange slices that you typically buy for the kids. So I'm only gonna be using a little bit of the juice from this container, along with all of the oranges inside of it, of course. But I think just adding a little bit of that juice to this recipe just gives it that orange creamsicle flavor. And then I've also zested in a little bit of the orange peel to just amp up that orange flavor just a little bit more. I'm also adding in some protein powder. I like to look for a vanilla whey isolate powder. Isolate is just a little bit higher in protein, so that's my choice of protein powder. But whatever protein powder that you have would taste really good with this recipe as long as it's not chocolate or some other different flavor. You want to stick with vanilla or even unflavored would work well. Now I'm just adding a little bit of these mandarin oranges into each jar. And I also want to mention my oranges were packed in water sweetened with stevia, but if you can only find ones packed in juice, that's fine. I mean, just do the best that you can. Now you want to put this in the fridge or let it sit for about 4 hours before you eat it. And then when you're ready to eat it, I like to add a little bit of shredded coconut and some granola. And oh my goodness, this is so good. Well, I really hope you guys enjoyed today's meal prep video. Make sure you like and subscribe and let me know in the comments below what recipe you're most excited to try.